Why? What have you heard?
Rumors in Hollywood spread faster than wildfire.
This year has been full of the highest highs and the lowest lows.
But when the whispers are about Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, people listen. It started quietly with an anonymous blind item buried deep in an entertainment forum. The post never mentioned names, just vague clues. But it didn't need to. The north of the border actor and his wife have been living apart for nearly a year now. It said, that single line was enough to set the internet ablaze. Fans immediately connected the dots.
I recently saw a blind item talking about how Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are apparently no longer living together, allegedly. And you know what? I 100%.
North of the border could only mean one thing. Ryan Reynolds, the beloved Canadian actor. And his wife? None other than Blake Lively, Hollywood's dazzling sweetheart. At first, it felt absurd. Ryan and Blake were the poster couple of playful love, famous for their witty social media banter and public displays of affection. But as the days passed, more details began to align. Sources claimed the two were barely on speaking terms, and that their home life had shifted from charming chaos to something much darker. The speculation only intensified when fans realized the couple hadn't been seen together in months. No joint appearances, no red carpet smiles, not even the usual cheeky birthday posts that once defined their relationship. The silence was deafening. And for a pair who built their brand on humor and transparency, it didn't make sense. Then came the twist that changed everything. The blind item was followed by another report, this time from multiple gossip outlets, describing the marriage as toxic. Words like constant fighting and emotional exhaustion started surfacing, painting a picture that felt far from the laughter-filled relationship the world thought they knew. Insiders claimed that what once looked like harmless teasing had crossed a line. The F-bombs weren't playful anymore. They were sharp, cold, and personal. One source even said, the joke stopped being funny a long time ago. That comment hit home for a lot of people, especially after an old story resurfaced. A moment when Ryan publicly told Blake to off during what was supposed to be a lighthearted event. Back then, everyone laughed it off as another one of his edgy jokes. But now, with context, that moment didn't seem so funny. In fact, insiders say it was a real argument, not a staged joke, and it left Blake humiliated in front of friends and colleagues. For many close to them, that was the breaking point, the moment when playful teasing became public disrespect. Fans began connecting the dots on their own. They noticed that Ryan's Instagram, once filled with inside jokes and playful roasts about his wife, was suddenly scrubbed clean of her presence. No photos, no mentions, just business posts, movie promotions, and bromantic snapshots with Hugh Jackman. The absence was impossible to ignore. For someone who had once made trolling his wife part of his online persona, Ryan's silence said more than words ever could. If the rumors of separation were true, it explained everything. The distance, the missing interactions, the total radio silence from both sides. And yet, beneath all this drama, there was another layer, one that made the whole situation even more complicated. Because, if we're being honest, this isn't the first time Ryan and Blake's relationship has been surrounded by controversy. Their love story itself began in the shadow of other relationships. Back when they first met on the set of Green Lantern, Ryan was still married to Scarlett Johansson, and Blake was dating Gossip Girl co-star Penn Badgley. According to Ryan himself, they became close friends during that time, but their chemistry was undeniable. He once joked about how they went on a double date with other people, only to realize the real sparks were between them. Not cheating, technically, but definitely a little too close for comfort. Soon after, his marriage to Scarlett ended, and within months, Blake was spotted visiting him on set in Boston. From there, the fairy tale began. They became one of Hollywood's most adored couples, the kind that made everyone believe in love again. So, when the current rumors about another woman started surfacing, fans couldn't help but wonder if history was repeating itself. But the gossip didn't stop at relationship drama. Just as the marriage rumors reached a fever pitch, another storm began brewing, this time tied to Blake's career. Her film It Ends With Us had become the center of a legal nightmare. Blake accused her director and co-star Justin Baldoni of harassment and retaliation, and her legal team came out swinging, claiming he'd hidden evidence and used encrypted apps to cover his tracks. What could have been a straightforward workplace dispute spiraled into a full-blown Hollywood scandal. And before anyone could catch their breath, Justin struck back with a $400 million defamation lawsuit. Not just against Blake, but against Ryan, too. It was chaos. The couple who once ruled Hollywood red carpets now found themselves in a war of headlines and legal filings. For Ryan, it was a nightmare. The man known for his charm and humor was suddenly being dragged into a legal circus he didn't start. For Blake, it was a fight for her reputation, a desperate attempt to protect her image and career. And for the first time, their carefully maintained public image cracked wide open. Fans began to wonder if the lawsuit was the final blow, the one thing their marriage couldn't survive. Because when your career, your brand, and your marriage are all entangled in the same mess, it's hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. What was once laughter and lighthearted teasing now looked like exhaustion and resentment. The tension that once seemed playful had turned toxic. And for a couple who had built their empire on love and humor, this was the cruelest irony of all. As the rumors continued to swirl, people online began taking sides. Some claimed Ryan was the problem, that he'd been hiding his true personality behind jokes for years. Others insisted Blake's lawsuit and the negative press had destroyed their relationship from the inside out. But one thing everyone agreed on: something had changed. And whatever that was, it wasn't going back to the way it used to be. The internet didn't just react, it exploded. Forums, fan pages, and gossip threads lit up overnight, dissecting every clue and every possible sign of what might really be happening behind the scenes of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's once perfect marriage. Theories flooded social media like an avalanche of obsession, each one more dramatic than the last. And the wildest of them all? That Ryan had already moved on, with another woman. At first, it sounded like typical Hollywood rumor mill nonsense. No photos, no hard proof, just speculation. But as more people began connecting patterns, the whispers turned into confident declarations. There's someone else, one Reddit thread claimed, and everyone in their circle knows it. The idea spread like wildfire, and the more people looked, the more they convinced themselves they could see the signs. The timing lined up too perfectly. The separation rumors, the missing photos, the cold body language in rare public sightings. Even Ryan's interviews began getting picked apart for hidden meaning, pauses, and smirks that fans swore revealed guilt. But the internet's memory is long, and it never forgets how this story started. Because let's be real, the other woman theory hit hard precisely because Ryan and Blake's romance had begun under similar whispers. When they fell for each other, both were still technically tied to other people. That spark on the set of Green Lantern had always carried a hint of scandal. So now, with rumors that Ryan was growing close to someone else again, people couldn't help but say it. Maybe history was just repeating itself. Then, as if the internet needed more fuel, new claims began surfacing. Dark ones. Allegations that Ryan's behavior on movie sets wasn't always as charming as his public persona. Anonymous accounts began sharing stories that painted him in an entirely different light, describing situations where he allegedly crossed boundaries or used his influence in questionable ways. None of it was confirmed, of course, but that didn't stop the avalanche of speculation. A single tweet accusing him of being sleazy behind the scenes racked up thousands of likes in hours. For a man who had spent years cultivating a reputation as Hollywood's lovable smartass, the shift in perception was seismic. And through all of it, silence. No statements, no denials, no attempts to set the record straight. Just an eerie quiet from both Ryan and Blake's camps. That silence spoke volumes. In Hollywood, when something isn't true, it's usually shut down fast. The fact that this wasn't said a lot to fans, too much maybe, it made them believe that the fairy tale really was collapsing. The jokes, the love, the power couple brand, all of it was just smoke and mirrors. But what made the story truly tragic was how public sympathy began to fracture. Once the internet's favorite husband and wife duo, Ryan and Blake now found themselves on opposite sides of a cultural war. Some argued that Blake was finally stepping into her own light, that she'd spent too long living in her husband's shadow, and was now paying the price for standing up for herself during the Justin Baldoni legal mess. Others saw her lawsuit as the spark that lit the fuse, claiming it dragged Ryan into chaos he never asked for and tarnished both of their images. Either way, the damage was done. The gossip didn't stop there. Another viral theory began circulating that the lawsuit itself had been the final straw for their marriage. One comment read, "This settles it. The whole harassment thing started when Ryan found out Blake had feelings for someone else." The idea sent fans spiraling. Was this just a case of jealousy gone too far? Had Ryan's anger at his wife's rumored connection with her co-star turned into a public spectacle that destroyed everything they'd built? No one knew for sure, but the possibility was messy enough to make headlines. And that's when a cruel truth about Hollywood became clear. In this town, love and image are one and the same. The moment one cracks, the other falls apart. Blake was now being called PR poison in online circles, her once shining reputation dimmed by controversy. Ryan, meanwhile, was being painted as either a villain or a victim, depending on which version of the internet you believed. What no one could deny, though, was that the cracks in their relationship were now visible to the world. It's hard to imagine that just a few years ago, they were the couple everyone envied. Playful, devoted, unstoppable. They were proof that celebrity marriages could survive the chaos of fame. But now, that illusion has shattered. Whether or not Ryan really has another woman in his life almost doesn't matter anymore. The trust between them, the foundation of their story, seems broken beyond repair. Because when love becomes part of your brand, losing it means losing everything. Hollywood isn't kind to broken fairy tales. The industry moves fast, and once your shine fades, it doesn't wait for you to rebuild. And maybe that's where Ryan and Blake find themselves now. Standing at the edge of the empire they built together, watching it crumble piece by piece. No official statements, no heartfelt posts, no reconciliation attempts have surfaced. Just a haunting silence and a trail of rumors that refuse to die. And in that silence, people are left wondering if the perfect couple was ever really perfect at all, or just another performance that finally ran out of lines. Because in the end, maybe the most painful truth is this. Sometimes, even the most beautiful love stories aren't built to last.